In this video, I'm going to discuss how we can connect front-end React with Django backend and also host in render. So usually the approach which is followed in this project is to host both front-end and also backend separately in render, and also later connect it so that the front-end calls the backend and appropriately gives us the output. So here I am having a folder called as React, which is a combination of the names Django and React. And in this folder I'm going to create my project. So this is the explorer where all the files which are going to be present. So first let me just create a virtual environment. So I'm creating here a virtual environment. So Python 3 -m venv. So this is the Mac environment. So in the Mac, this is the command to create a virtual environment, Python virtual environment. So I'm naming my environment as my React env. You can name any name, you can give any name to the environment, virtual environment. So let's run this. So that environment has been created. Let's activate this environment. So source my React env bin activate. So as you can see here, clearly the virtual environment got activated. Now currently there are no packages in this environment except pip. So we will install Django in this virtual environment. So to install Django, it is pip install Django. So just run this so that we can install Django in this virtual environment. So once the Django has been installed, we can create a backend project. So we want to use Django for backend. So we want to create a backend directory. So I will be calling that as React backend. So since we installed Django, so let's create a project. So Django -admin start project, and you can name it as React backend. Okay, so it will create a folder called as React backend, and all the backend related files are going to store in this folder. So let's run this. So it's not a valid project name, so please make sure a valid identifier. So we can use a different name. So rather than having this, I'll use camel case notation and call this as React backend. So as you can see now, so we have our virtual environment and also our project. Here in the Explorer, we can also see all the default files which we got through the Django project. So now I'm also going to create a app inside this project named as my app. So to do that, first of all, enter into the React backend. So and here we have manage.py. So run python manage.py and start app, and I'll name it as my app. So when we run this, now we can see here clearly in the React backend folder we have my app with some default files which Django provides to us. So here we need to edit few things. So first let us edit urls.py, and we are going to create one more urls.py in my app. So let me create that urls.py, and I'm going to connect this urls.py in React backend to the urls.py in my app. So to do that, we should first have a package which is include, and using that we can now append one more path. So which is an empty one, and here you use include and mention the URL. So my app name is my app dot, within that I have URLs. So I'm going to mention that here. So save this, and once this is done, now we have created urls.py and also my app.urls. So now we are going to create the content or write the content inside the urls.py of my app. So here I'm going to first import path. So from Django dot urls import path. Okay, and later we will be creating a file called as api.py, which I would be importing here, and I'll be having a method called as hello underscore world. So all those things, as of now it is not there. We can create that here. Go to and right click here and name it as api.py. Usually we write methods in views.py, but in Django we write it in Django REST framework we write it in api.py, just to differentiate between normal views. So here we are going to import few things from REST underscore frameworks, and also we did not install Django REST framework, which also we are going to do now. So Django REST framework dot decorators, we will be using Python decorators, import api underscore view, and from REST underscore framework dot response, import response. So these are the two things which we imported, and as I said earlier, we are going to write this method def hello world, which we import in other files. So request, and here we are going to return and response with a message in the JSON format as so here we have key and value, so message, and the value would be anything, but you can write hello from Django REST framework. So that's it. So this is hello underscore world, and here api underscore view, the decorator which we imported, and we will be using here, and this is a get method, http method. So save it. And now, so we did not install Django REST frameworks, that we are going to do it. Framework, we need to do pip install. So pip install, let me zoom it. Pip install Django REST framework. Django REST framework. So that will install Django REST framework in my React env. And also later, since we are going to have backend in one port and frontend in another port, and there need to be a communication between these two, we need chords headers. So that also we will install here. Pip install Django hyphen chords hyphen headers. So we have installed both the packages, Django REST framework and also Django chords headers. Make few changes in settings.py. First we need to import OS, so let's do that. And we also use something called as import dj underscore database underscore url, which we need it. So both of them we are going to use once again inside settings.py. And once we go to install.apps, here we have installed one app called as my app. So let's do it. And also REST frameworks we have to include. So REST in the single quotes, REST underscore framework, and put a comma, and also the chords headers also should be included here. So once this is done, in the middleware also we should include chords headers middleware. So in single quotes, chords headers dot middleware dot chords middleware. So this, save it. And also we have some variables which we need to set. Our chords underscore allowed underscore origin. So let's write it here, chords underscore allowed underscore origins. That would be equal to, so this is where we will mention our front end link. So for now I am going to give the name which I am foreseeing what I would like to have. So I'll play something like this. So gact underscore front end. So this is the name I'm going to have it. So later I'll be hosting it in on render. So as of now we can just comment it, or but we will be using this this as the front end link. In the same way, we have one more variable. So in React, when we do it, we will be hosting at this link. So that has to be accepted by the backend. So that's why we need chords headers. And other variable is chords underscore trusted underscore origins. So let's put that also, trusted underscore origins, the same name, once again the front end link. So later we should also edit few things in databases. So here database variable, here the default ones will be removing it, and we'll be using the dj underscore database which we imported in the top. So underscore url dot config, and within this we write as default is equal to sqlite colon os dot path dot join base underscore dir comma db dot sqlite 3. So we import this, and within these flower brackets, and so this whole thing will be an f string, so we will also be putting a f here. So these are the changes which you need to do to the database variable. And then towards the end we will also place static url which is already there, and also static underscore root which would be equal to os dot path dot join base underscore dir comma static files. So save this, and so these are the changes which are supposed to be done in the database. As you can see, first we imported os and dj underscore database underscore url, and we have also included my app rest frameworks and cross headers. We have also included the chords middleware chords. So this chords is related, we need to use it because both front end and back end are hosted in different port numbers, and in order for them to communicate, this by default it would be restricted, but when you set this it will be able to successfully access from front end and to and fro. So and also towards the end we have seen how database variable should be changed, and also the static url and static root. So these are the changes which are supposed to be done. So after saving, so let's now create a proc file inside the backend. So just right click and create a new file, which so this should be inside the backend. So yeah, so here new file, proc file. So this does not ends with anything, simple proc file, and within this we need to place something which is web unicorn backend. Here our backend is React backend, so React backend dot WSGI, React backend dot WSGI unicorn. So this should be placed. So save this file and you can close it. So once we are done with this, so now we can generate a requirements.py.txt file. So let's do that. So requirements.txt file, you need to go to terminal, and here being in the backend directory, so we need to invoke pip3 freeze requirements.txt. So now a requirements file has been generated. As you can see, these are all supposed to be there in order for this to work successfully. Okay, so now few more commands. We have python manage.py migrations we need to do. So the manage.py make migrations. So no module name dj underscore database underscore url. So let's just check it. dj underscore database underscore url in the backend folder. So pip3 dj underscore database underscore url. So this pip3 install dj underscore database underscore url. Try to install this. Place the URL patterns in urls.py in my app. So let's continue that and place the URL patterns. So URL patterns is equal to a square bracket, within this we will place it, and path and API, because in API / hello we want to use this as a link, the URL link extension, and the method which we look for is hello world, which we have already written. So that can be seen in api.py hello underscore world. So hello underscore world comma name is equal to single quotes hello underscore world. So this is a URL pattern. Now we have hello world method defined clearly inside api.py, and we are also we'll be looking for this particular sort of link URL when we want to see the outputs. So save this. Once this is done, now let's go back to the make migration step. So here python 3 so python manage.py make migrations. So and python manage.py migrate, python manage.py migrate. So migrations have been done, and we also do collect static. So python manage.py collect static hyphen minus no input, hyphens here, no input minus no input. Once you run it, So this is also done. Now we will be going to the front end part. So till now we completed the backend part. We will be later hosting this in as a web service in Render, the front end. So in order to do that, first let's come back one step backward. So currently we are in React folder. Here we want to create React front end based on React. So in order to do that, so we'll be using npx create React app front and name it. So we will be naming as front end React, similar to how we named backend, sorry, React front end. So React front end. So this is the name we are going to give, and so it takes some time and create a folder React front end. So there is some naming problem, cannot create a project name because of the npm naming restrictions. So we will be using a different kind of name here. So let me say I'll use all small letters instead of big letters. So now as you can see here, we are able to have React frontend and some installations are going to happen. So it will take some time. You can see here inside the src we will have a lot of files, JavaScript files, and so some are unnecessary, so we will be removing them. For example, as of now we don't use this report web vitals and setup tests, so I'm deleting all those. And app test also I'll be not needing now, and wherever those are there, and those also should be deleted from here and here, and also so you can save it, and also app.js. So all these things we have changed, and in fact we were going to write completely the app.js code, so you can delete completely. So now here we want to create in React, we have functional components, and we create we use reactive variables and various hooks to create front end code. So I'm going to use a code which I have tested earlier. So I'll just discuss briefly what this code is all about. As you can see here, we are using 3 reactive variables. One is message, loading, and error. We are using useState hook, which allows us to create reactive variable which we need to import in the top. And we also have a second hook called as use effect hook, and this use effect hook is being used in with the empty dependency array, which means runs only when it is mounted. So as you can see, we also have a URL, API URL, and that needs to be set in the environmental variable with so and so a name. So that which we are going to do now. And we can see here that once the URL link is successful, once this is successful, we can get the message, and that will be stored in this data.message, and later the same message would be displayed here. So we can say the output is successful when we are able to see this output. So that message is coming from the backend to the front end. So in order, only when it is really successful, when the link is working, which we are going to mention here, and when the fetching from the backend happens in a perfect way, then we will get this message, and that message would be displayed here. So let us see whether it works or not. So first thing is we have to create a file called as .env inside this front end, and let's create a new file .env, and let's now test keep the variable name .env inside the .env file. So let's name it as react _app _API URL, which is equal to, just like how we set earlier, now we have to set for backend, so which is https colon doubles forward slash gact gact hyphen backend dot onrender.com. So this link I'm going to give later. When we are testing locally, we can use the local host URL here of the backend. So we, as I said earlier, we have one URL for backend, one URL for front end. So here we need to mention the backend URL, and when we are testing locally, we can give the local host here. So for now I'll be mentioning the actual link which I want to use it. So once this is done, so this is what it is being accessed here, and the content is coming from this. So the JSON file is coming from this URL. Okay, so this URL should work fine, only then we can get the data, and the data will be stored in data message variable, and that we are trying to use to display it. So that's the front end code. Just to save the time, I have just used already tested code. So now let us go to each of those front end and back end and run the code. So before I run the code, maybe in the beginning we will just keep it local host, so that we don't need to worry about the actual one. So here actually go with the actual URLs, we will change it to localhost to check the output. So let me go to settings.py, and here we have made a lot of changes. So especially in the cross allowed origins, we will also include localhost colon 3000. That is the usual link of front end. So let me copy that here also. So since there is double quote, we can use double quote instead of single quote. So, and also we have used in the top, so that's it. So let's also go to now front end and check for the links. So we will be just now placed in app.js in the environ.env file. So for now I'll just comment this thing and just use backend link, which is usually 127 or https colon 127.0.0.0 colon 8000. So that's it. So we'll use this for now, and let's check the outputs of each of those. So let's go to now front end. So the front end is at gact front end. So cd gact front end, and here we can use npm run start to run the front end output. Let's see if there is any error. So this thing can be solved. We need to install something, npm install ajv. So I'm doing that here. So once that is done, we can run once again. But before running, one thing here, usually the URL link is 127.0.0.1 in .env, which we have written wrong. So anyways, now let us run the output npm run start. And so as you can see, currently we did not run the data backend, so it is saying it is failed to fetch. So let us now go to the backend and also run it. So go to terminal, new terminal, and here we have front end. Now in the enter into backend, so gact uh, backend. Here you can write python manage.py run server, and let's see what sort of error or output we get. So let's solve this error. So localhost in is missing scheme. Okay, the https, all those things we may need to write it. So let's go to settings.py. So let's write https double quotes. In the same way we can write it here also, https double quotes, sorry, yeah, double slashes, save it. .py in the middleware we did not put this comma, so that is also one error which we have done. So yeah, let's do control C and rerun it once again, python manage.py run server. So as you can see here, so let's first test this link, and here will not find, but the slash api slash hello we should be able to see something. So as you can see, there is some response. So this is working back, and Django REST framework. So now let's see if front end is able to receive that, which we have done. It should be CS RF and not codes. So that is one thing which we need to change. So let's rerun once again. So in the, if you go to backend, so control C, and also now come to front end and control C, npm run start. One more variable which is cors underscore hello underscore all underscore origins. This should be set to true since we are testing in the development mode. Once we go to the production mode, we can remove this. So once we have done this, and also most of our front-end and back-end are hosted in HTTP and not in HTTPS. So we need to remove both these things. HTTP, we have to make it HTTP instead of HTTPS. The same thing we should do it in the front end, where we direct to the backend URL. So here also we should include the HTTP. So these are the changes which we are supposed to do. So now almost everything is fine. So let's run this and check the output. So control C. First we can go to backend, control C, python manage.py run server, and we can see this is the URL which we set in .env in the front end, and also in the front end we can do npm run start, and this is the output. So what is happening, this is coming from the backend, the message, this message is coming from the backend. So front end React is requesting for the message through the app.js. So if you see here in the app.js, we used fetch to receive the response, JSON response. If it is successful, it stores in this message variable, and using use state hook, we set the message variable here. So the set message will modify the message variable to the content which we receive through this fetch operation. And once this has been fetched, we are, so this fetching, this thing is coming from backend, because the API underscore URL, which is nothing but react underscore app underscore API is set to the backend. So the front end is calling backend, and from the backend we are receiving that message. And what is backend sending us? Backend is, if you go to app.js, if you go to the backend, and if you see the API, so whenever there is a request which is made, if you can see in URLs, if someone invokes this API slash hello, it is kind of invoking this method hello world, and this hello world contains this message, and this message is what we are passing as a response, and this response is received at the front end, and that is being displayed. So in this way we get this output. How we can host both front end and back end in render and later connect it. So till now we have seen output in localhost. Both front end and back end have been uh, executed at different port numbers, and we're able to connect it, but it in the same system in the local host. Now we want to host it in a free cloud hosting space called Render. And to do that, first we need to push the both front end and back end to GitHub. So first let's create a repository for both these front end and back end, and then we will try to push it. So currently I'm in my React backend directory. So I'm going to create I'm going to initialize a repository for React backend. So I'm going to create here two repositories, one for backend and one for front end separately, and I'm going to push it. So first let's create the initialize the repository for the backend. So git init in this folder. So if I do git init, it is going to initialize a repository, and this repository we have to make all the changes ready so that we can push to GitHub. So let's do that. These are the sequence of steps: git space add space dot, and git commit -m, git commit -m, and you can write any comment. I'll mention just it as initial commit. So git commit -m initial commit. So let's run this, and these are the all the files which are ready now to get pushed. So we should also mention the branch. So git branch -M main, and also git. If you want to check your branch name, you can once again type git branch. If this is just an optional one, just to see what branch you are in. And once it is done, we have to now go to the repository and try to create a repository in the GitHub account. So till now we worked with the git commands. Now this is my GitHub account. Here I'm going to create a new repository with the same name. So let's create that. So as you can, if you observe, the name of our repository which we initialized here was with the same name as our folder, which is React backend. I'll be using the same name here. So React backend as the name of the repository, and we don't need any readme file. I'm not choosing anything, and just create repository. So once this repository has been created, since there is no content, it is suggesting how you can push it. So we can use this command, git command, to push the complete local files to the remote repository. So just type it and paste it here, and so that the contents get pushed from the local repository to the remote repository. And also finally git push -u origin. If you do it, the whole contents will be now pushed from local repository to the remote GitHub repository. So let's see that whether the changes has happened or not. So in order to observe the changes, go to your account. So this is the React backend repository name, but initially there is nothing. But since now we have pushed it, and if you refresh it, we can see all the changes which are there. So these are all the files which have been pushed from get React backend. So the same thing we have to do it for the React front end also. So let's go to our front end and also do the same changes. So here we have React front end. You can do Control C, and here let's create once again a repository. In order to create the repository, we will start with git init. So git init, and then we will also have command git space add space dot, and also git commit minus m front end commit. You can write it something front end commit, front end initial commit, and we can press OK, and then git branch minus capital M main, and once again you can check the branch if you want using the branch command. Now go to GitHub, and here once again create one more repository. Here the repository name should be same as the repository name which we gave here. So it is git frontend, F is small letter here. So let's create a new repository and call it as React frontend, and create a repository. And these are the steps. So we have to run these steps so that we can add origin, remote add origin, so that all the changes would be ready. So git remote add origin front end. So once this is done, final command is git push minus u origin main. So let's do this also. So now we can, now if we go to GitHub account, React frontend repository, now if you refresh this, all the contents have been pushed from my local directory to the remote repository. So this is my remote GitHub repository. This we got here because we pushed it from my git local repository. So these are the things. This is how first we need to set up before we actually go to rendering, to host in render cloud platform. Pushed our content to GitHub. Let us now go to render cloud platform and try to host it. So this is what is the render. So get started for free, and here we can invoke various services in the new button. So click on this. First we want to place our front end in the static site, so click on this, and here we need to give the public git repository. So let us now find out the git repository of front end and just copy this and paste it here. And this is our public git repository for front end. So once we do this, it will ask few things. So these are all not going to be changed. Only one thing is to set the environmental variable, and this environmental variable we have to carefully place it. So let's go to our project. So we set a few environmental variables. For example, in the React front end, so we have this name of an variable react underscore app underscore API underscore URL. So currently we have this, but later we want to have this. So I want to little modify it so that it doesn't overlap with the other things which I have. So I'll use this React as the backend, React-backend1.onrender.com, and currently it is not there, but we will eventually do it, so no problem. So even if we get an error, so let's just deploy the static site. So even if there is an error, so we don't need to worry, we will refresh it later. So let this run. So let's now once again go back to render and also deploy the backend. So here click on new and a web service, and here public git repository. So just give the backend directory, so repositories and Django backend. Click on this and paste here and connect to this, and here Gact backend is the name of uh, the project, and so here we have to mention what we are going to do. So let me just edit this. So my project name is Gact backend, so Gact backend .wsgi, but I want to have my name of the project as Gact-backend1. So this should be there as a name in the top. So this is what I want the name, so that this is what I want the name. But once again it might throw error because we did not push the all these changes. So anyways, let this be there, so we don't need to worry. So this we will try to deploy web service. So let's see, but there is scope for getting errors, but we will resolve those errors eventually. So first also let's now go to our code and make the necessary changes for pushing. So this we have tried it and it was successful. So let's comment this down, control V, and also then place this as the URL name. This has to be changed, and also in the settings.py inside Gact backend we have Gact_frontend.onrender.com. so this is the URL name. So in fact we should have the same, but we already gave the name, so let's use the same thing, Gact_frontend.onrender.com. so let's make this change also, Gact_frontend.onrender.com. so both have been saved now, and now this is not needed because we are going for the production thing. And so now let us deploy this, push all these changes once again. So in order to push these changes we should do git push origin main once again, but before that, so git space add space dot git space commit -m changes. Okay, git, this is any comment you can write it, and then git push origin main, git push origin main. So once we do it, all the changes would be pushed. So in the same way we should go to backend also and do the same thing. So git space add space dot git commit -m changes or something. You can write any comment here, and git push origin main, git push origin main. So once we do this, all the necessary changes would be, whatever we made will be pushed. That can be clearly seen here. If we go to Gact backend, we have modified the settings.py file, and that you can see it here. Gact front end, the names we have changed, we have commented this, all these changes are there. In the same way, if you go back one step back and go to front end repository, you can also observe the changes which we have done, especially in the .env file we changed the backend link, so Gact-backend1. so now all the changes are reflected. So let's refresh it once again by using the latest commits. So deploy latest commit, and also this also deploy latest commit. So if we do both, let's observe what sort of changes we will have. Error in hosting Django backend, React backend in render, because we did not actually install Unicorn. So let's install Unicorn and also freeze it so that it displays in requirements.txt and later push it to GitHub. So to do that, so let's go to our thing. So as of now, if you see, in our requirements.txt we don't have Unicorn, so pip install Unicorn. So now we have installed Unicorn. Now we can also do the requirements freeze so that it will go to requirements.txt. So okay, no problem, we will be pip freeze requirements.txt. So now if you see it, Unicorn is also part of requirements.txt. Now let's push all these things once again. So git add and also git commit minus, you can say, Unicorn changes, and also git push origin main. So once we do this, we can clearly see the changes in GitHub. So let's go to backend and refresh this. So if you refresh in the requirements.txt, you can see now Unicorn available. Now try to commit, deploy the latest commit. So let's see what happens now. See it, but yeah, but still, as you can see, there is in the allowed hosts in settings we did not set this. So let's take this and set it in allowed hosts and once again push it. So go to settings.py. If you go to settings.py, here in allowed hosts we need to set this. So set this and save it, and once again do all the push operations. So git add, git commit, something like host, you can add it, and git push origin main. And once this is done, you can see the changes in the backend, all the changes inside settings.py. So allowed host, now you can see this. So that was the error which we got earlier. You need to add React into allowed host. So now that we have done it, so once again let us deploy the latest commit. So let's see what output we will get. Successful. As you can see, it has successfully available at this site. So let's look at this. So but as we know, we don't have these directly at this site. We have to write API/hello. This is where we get response from. So this is the JSON response which will go to the front end. So now let us see the front end link, whether are we able to get the message from the backend to front end or not. So if you click on the front end link, this message hello from Django REST framework came from the backend. If you remember our code, so this frontend app.js message from backend, this message part is coming from the backend, and this backend is hosted in this URL. If you can see this, so this was our URL. So it is collecting the message from this URL and trying to render that here, and that's what we are able to see here. So this is the front end URL hosted in render, and this message we got it from backend, which is which you can see here. So this is the message response which is being passed, and that message we are accessing and we are trying to display here. So in this way we can host with Django as a backend and React as a front end in render. Thank you.